total of 6,289 people were murdered in the first 3 months of 2023. That's at least according to the latest crime statistics that were released yesterday by Police Minister Bheki Cele. Gender-based violence, household robberies and CIT heists also seeing a massive uptick. Let's unpack these figures further for you now. Bring in the National Police Commissioner Fannie Masemola, who joins us via our video link from Cape Town this morning. Commissioner, it's lovely to see you. Thanks so much indeed for making time to speak to us. You've been quoted already from yesterday as saying that you concerned about specifically the murder rate in this country. Upwards of 6,000 people in the first 3 months. That comes to about more than 60 people a day. What's your response to South Africans this morning who feel like sitting ducks in their homes because of just how prevalent crime is?
Thanks, and thanks to your viewers. The murder rate is indeed a concern to us, South African Police Service, and we are doing our best to make sure that we resolve these cases. But of course, investigation of murder cases take quite some time, and they also take quite some time to process it through the courts. So we ask and call upon the society to work with the police and make sure that we prevent these murders, especially when it comes to murders of women and children. But we have realized that alcohol is one of the gravest cause of crime in this country, and people going there too, or coming back from there, or while they are there, that's where stabbings and shootings, either killing in whatever, any other form of instrument happens. So we call on the society to come forward and make sure that whenever they've seen a case or somebody being murdered, they should come forward and be prepared to give witness and evidence, and of course also not to take the law into their own hands. It's quite often happen that whenever there is a case of murder, people they would say they want the murderer to be given to them, which is not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, and in many instances, Commissioner, in many instances, not that, of course, this is justifiable. People resolve to that because they feel that nothing else is really coming out of their plight. But you mentioned the investigations. We've heard many a times officials from the NPA decrying the quality of dockets that they receive, specifically from police, and that's when they are under fire for not being able to follow through on prosecutions if and when the matter lands up in court. From your perspective, where are things falling through the cracks here? Because if those recollections are anything to go by, they're putting the blame on police. They're saying the investigations are shoddy, and that's why there are no prosecutions in court.
We trained our detectives, and we still train them every year. As we speak, we have over 400 detectives undergoing training, which includes all aspects of statement taking and investigation of crime. So it is not always the case, or I can say that it's not always because the case is not well investigated. Look, when a murder happens, it cannot be that the docket is ready for trial the next day. There's quite a lot of things that has to happen. Forensic evidence that must go to forensic and back, and thereafter the case can be ready. For example, over the weekend, sure you had the N3 around Van Renen was blocked at some point because somebody was murdered. The police arrested the person, and after the arrest, the community stormed the police station to say, no, give us back, we want to kill him also, which is not how it should work. We can't always take the law into our own hands. We will investigate the case, all cases. People will apply for bail, yes, but it's not the police that grant bail. And remember, it is the magistrates that decides on who to give bail and what. depending on the reasons that they give. So they should give us that space to investigate cases, finalize, and put them before the courts.
Yeah, I mean, we can refer to one high-profile case just as a case in point. You know, when the Thabo Bester matter was being heard, it must have been earlier this week, actually, with the bail application of those 5 co-accused. One of them was granted bail, and the premise upon which that bail was granted essentially was that, A, the state's case is apparently not great. It's weak, I think are the words that were used. But also, there was feeling that there wasn't enough evidence really gathered to ensure that a strong enough argument can be made that it is in the interest of justice that one of those accused is actually kept behind bars before the trial starts. Again, it almost seems like it comes back to whether or not the T's were crossed, the I's were dotted, even before somebody is arrested, let alone before the NPA can argue for the state in court.
Yeah, thanks. Remember, the investigation of crime that have not yet been finalized by the time we go for bail. Anybody that gets arrested, immediately he or she applies for bail. The investigation is not yet complete. It must still go on. And in this case, our team did the best. We have seen most of those people are still held behind bars, but the investigation is still going on. And if we are not finalized in one way or another, it does not mean that we have lost the case. It's just been given bail, but the investigation is still carrying on, and he will still be brought to court in future.
Yeah. So as far as you're concerned, you're able to arm the NPA with what they need to see this matter through. Not only just to ensure that Thabo Bester, of course, remains behind bars, but that everybody else who helped him also faces justice.
That's the intention of the police. We are working around the clock to make sure that we collect all evidence. It's quite a very large-scale investigation that we are involved in, and we may definitely will make sure that all those that were involved are brought to book, and it's quite a lot that we are still going to arrest in the very near future in regard to the Thabo Bester matter. Not only him, but quite a lot of people that played a role that will bring them on board very soon.
Yeah. The public generally looks to these high-profile cases if they are to change even just the perceptions they have of police. So, pardon my next question as well, but I wonder if you have any update for us on, for instance, the killing of AKA as an example. You know, it was interesting to watch the commentary around the time of this particular murder. Were people quite skeptical about whether or not there would be any arrests, let alone prosecutions?
Yeah, with regard to the case of AKA, there will be arrests. We just have to make sure we do not have to rush for the sake of arresting and end up getting people not behind bars. We are still focusing on the case. There are leads, but as soon as we are ready, we'll be able to definitely make arrests. But the investigation is ongoing. It's a case that we are prioritizing, and we'll definitely get behind it.
Speaking about that perception, again, I think you will agree, or maybe let me just ask that question. Do you agree with people who suggest that there's a grave trust deficit between police and the general public? And if that is the case, how hopeful are you that you'll ever get down to really bringing crime under control in our country? Because you'll agree that you need the collaboration of communities who hopefully trust you to begin with.
Yeah, we cannot deny that to an extent there is the level of trust that went down. But as the police, we are not sitting back. You would recall that the history where we come from, we came from in recent history where we have so much dire shortage that some of the shifts cannot run, but some of the satellite police station has to close because of shortage of personnel. And that on its own does not end up only being a shortage. It leads to this area where the community end up not trusting the police because police will, in most cases, will arrive late when they are called because they are few. They are few and there is many to attend to. But we, as we've seen now, we are busy improving on that case with the number of police, the 10,000 that we got, even though they are not yet on the ground. They're still undergoing work exposure at community service centers, but soon they will be, end of June, they'll be on the street. So we think we will be able to bring back those level of trust of, again, between police and community by, of course, the only measure we have to do is to make sure we deliver service and we are timely when they call, which I agree that currently it's not in all cases where we respond quickly and on time. And there are various reasons to that, and we are addressing those reasons. One of them being lack of transport, which we are attending to it in terms of empowering our garages to fix cars locally, and of course not go to only certain big towns for fixing. So those are the small things, but they play a big role in terms of satisfying our customers, because if we don't arrive in time or arrive at all, that is what erodes the trust between the police and the community. We know those areas and we are attending to them and make sure that we will be there when we are called.
Yeah. Some academics who give us their time even on this show are at pains to explain that it's not just about capacity constraints, and don't get me wrong, that has its place, but it's also about sometimes the integrity, credibility of those members who are part of the police service. Some of them even take it a step further and suggest that actually there's no fixing what we currently have because the dysfunction runs so deep. How much time do you spend engaging some of those people who quite literally study what you do and feel like they have solutions to offer?
We do engage stakeholders and, of course, a lot of other departments, and we also engage the communities themselves. We go out with Imbizos, both of late. We also host many indabas where we address the issue of domestic or the GBV violence, and we do listen to communities, and the communities, they tell us where things goes wrong, and we are prepared and we make sure that we attend to those areas. But yes, on a face value, it will look like the capacity constraint play a very small role. But on the ground there, when we go, we do find that communities, they raise it. Yes, in most cases, the capacity plays a role in terms of not arriving time, not because they were just doing nothing, but because they had a number of complaints to resolve. Those are the matters that we are trying to resolve currently. By, of course, making sure that we train better our members, which we are doing, and make sure that we improve the training of our detectives and looking at their morale and so on.
General Fannie Masemola, thank you for your time. Appreciated. General Fannie Masemola is, of course, the National Police Commissioner of South Africa.